They mocked her, laughed at her, and called her weak. But when the commander walked in and saluted her, the room fell silent. This is the story of how appearances can deceive, and how true strength cannot be hidden. The market was alive with noise. Vendors shouted about fresh figs, roasted nuts, and bright cloth. The air carried the smell of baked bread, mixed with the dust of the street. Children darted between stalls, chasing each other, while old men leaned on canes and argued about prices. Through the crowd walked Alara. She looked ordinary. Her jacket was plain, her boots worn, and her hair tied back without care. Nothing about her suggested she carried secrets heavier than stone. Most eyes passed over her, assuming she was just another traveler. She paused at a stall, where knives and old lanterns were piled in a careless heap. The seller, a tall man with scarred hands, gave her one glance and turned away. He preferred the company of laughing hunters, who examined the sharper blades. When Alara asked for the price of a small knife, the man smirked and waved her off. "Too much for you," he said, without even looking. At the fountain in the center of the square, she stopped. Children were tossing pebbles into the shallow water. The ripples spread wide, fragile circles that vanished almost at once. Alara watched them for a moment, thinking of her own life. So many of her deeds were like those ripples, real but unseen by the world. She had fought in places the town would never know, but here she was, just a quiet woman in a faded jacket. The noise of boots broke her thoughts. A group of soldiers pushed through the market. Their weapons rattled, and their laughter filled the air. People stepped back quickly, giving them room. Alara did the same, lowering her head. One soldier noticed her, whispered something to his friend, and they both laughed. She did not react, but her ears burned. Beyond the fountain stood a shop with peeling shutters. A sign above the door read, "Ward's Supplies." Inside, the air smelled of leather and oil. Shelves carried ropes, lanterns, blankets, and behind glass hung vests meant for protection. Alara entered. The bell above the door rang once, dull and tired. Behind the counter stood 3 men. They were tall, broad, and full of the easy pride of those who believed they belonged everywhere. The oldest, with a heavy beard, leaned on the counter and narrowed his eyes at her. "Help you?" he asked, his tone flat. "I need protective gear," Alara said. Her voice was calm, her words steady. The men exchanged grins. One pointed to the camping blankets. "Maybe lighter things for you." Alara looked at the vests behind glass. "I need one of those," she replied. Their laughter filled the small shop. The shop felt heavier as the minutes passed. Alara stood with her hands resting at her sides, calm, but unwelcome. The men behind the counter still exchanged grins, their laughter like smoke that clung to the air. She had faced enemies who carried rifles, but mockery was a different kind of weapon. It cut without leaving marks. The older man leaned forward. His gray beard touched the counter. "You don't look like someone who knows what to do with this gear," he said. His voice was firm, almost bored, as if he had repeated the same judgment many times. One of the younger men folded his arms and added, "It's not a fashion piece. It's meant for real use. Heavy, rough, not for soft hands." Their words rolled over her, but Alara did not flinch. She had learned long ago that silence was its own strength. Yet inside her, a voice whispered the same doubts she had buried for years. Maybe they are right. Maybe I don't look like I belong. The door behind her opened again. A pair of hunters walked in, still smelling of forest and smoke. They stopped. When they saw her standing there, one raised his brow, whispered something to the other, and chuckled. Their laughter joined the shopkeepers. Another layer of disbelief pressing on her shoulders. Alara's fingers brushed against the strap of her worn satchel. Inside lay documents, coded reports, and memories too sharp to revisit. None of those could be shown here. None could explain why she needed what she asked for. Her truth was hidden behind walls that no shopkeeper or hunter could ever see. Maybe try the market, the bearded man said finally. You'll find leather aprons there. Lighter, easier. A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. He was certain he had dismissed her. Certain she would leave quietly, as many before her must have. But Elara stayed. Her gaze moved to the vests behind the glass. Their dark fabric held more meaning to her than these men could guess. Each stitch, each plate, was a shield against chaos. She thought of the night skies she had crossed. The cities where shadows hit snipers. The villages where a wrong turn meant disaster. She remembered the weight of fear pressing against her ribs, and how the gear had given her breath when hope was thin. I want to see them, she said again, her voice steady. The laughter thinned, though smirks remained. They thought her foolish, but her calm unsettled them. One shifted uneasily. The hunters whispered again, but softer now. Eyes did not waver. She stood alone in that narrow shop, a figure dismissed by appearance, yet carried by unseen storms. The whispers of doubt still echoed inside her, but she pressed them down, the way she always had. For doubt had no place in survival, and survival was the one language she knew best. The shop's walls seemed to close in as Elara stood her ground. Laughter still echoed, but she did not move. Her eyes stayed on the vests. She had no intention of leaving empty-handed. A memory crept into her mind, dark alleys lit by flames, the sound of glass breaking, and the weight of a vest against her chest. That weight had once saved her life. It had caught the bullet that never reached her heart. Now, standing in this small shop, she felt the same need. The men noticed her silence. It unsettled them. The younger one cleared his throat. Look, he said, softer now. This isn't for everyone. Most people can't handle it. Elara raised her gaze to meet his. Her eyes were calm, but they carried storms he could not understand. I can handle it, she said simply. The room quieted for a moment, but then a chuckle broke the stillness. The older man leaned forward. Tell me, little one, are you some kind of soldier? His voice dripped with disbelief. The word soldier stirred something deep in her. She thought of her training, of nights spent crawling through mud, of voices over radios whispering codes she had memorized. She thought of comrades who never came back, yet she did not speak of it. She could not. I have my reasons, she answered. The hunters near the door shifted uncomfortably. One of them muttered, she doesn't look it. Those words were not new. They had followed her for years, like shadows on every path she walked. Too small, too quiet, too soft, but Elara had learned that appearances were masks. The strongest steel often came in plain shapes. The bell above the door rang again. A figure stepped inside, tall, confident, moving with the kind of ease only years of discipline could bring. The air shifted. The soldiers' laughter faded, and even the shopkeepers straightened. Elara turned slightly and saw her, a woman with sharp eyes, short hair, and the bearing of command. She was dressed in simple clothes, yet everything about her spoke of the battlefield. The stranger glanced at the counter, then at Elara, holding her ground. She walked closer, her boots steady on the floorboards. Having trouble? She asked, her tone calm, but edged with strength. Elara studied her for a moment, then gave a small nod. They won't show me what I came for. The woman's eyes narrowed at the shopkeepers. Silence spread through the room. For the first time, Elara felt she was no longer standing alone. The shop grew tense. The tall stranger stood beside Elara, her presence cutting through the mockery like a blade through cloth. The shopkeepers who had laughed earlier now shifted uncomfortably. The gray-bearded man cleared his throat. And who might you be? His voice had lost some of its sharpness. The woman lifted her chin slightly. Someone who knows the difference between broken gear and real equipment, she said. Her eyes narrowed at the dusty vests hanging in the corner. Why are you offering this trash? The younger men looked at one another. The hunters near the door stepped back, sensing the weight in her tone. Ilara remained quiet, watching, but inside her chest something eased. At last, someone else had spoken the truth aloud. The shopkeeper fumbled for words. "This is for regular buyers. The better pieces are reserved for professionals." The woman's lips curved into a thin smile. "And how do you decide who counts as a professional?" "By appearance." No one answered. Silence pressed against the walls. Ilara finally spoke. "I asked for your best. You laughed instead." Her words were steady, but each carried the weight of years of dismissal. The gray-bearded man shifted behind the counter. "We get many pretenders, people who claim to know, but don't. We can't risk it." "Then ask for proof," the stranger snapped. "Not insults." Her voice rang through the small room, and for a moment no one moved. The hunters dropped their gaze to the floor. The shopkeepers looked pale. One of the younger men finally unlocked the glass case. His hands shook as he lifted a vest, newer and stronger than anything he had shown before. The weight of real steel plates pressed against his arms. He set it on the counter. "This one. This is our best." Ilara stepped forward. She ran her fingers along the stitching, the straps, the edges of the plates. It was clean, balanced, trustworthy. Her heart eased slightly as she lifted it into her arms.